Welcome to the Tech Savvy Professor podcast, which features two faculty members who love tech and love making it part of their work. I'm Marty, a counselor educator at Kent State University and program coordinator, co-coordinator for the master's program.
And I'm Eric Perry. I am program director and associate faculty at Divine Mercy University.
So, what's going on with your world? Anything new that you want to catch up on?
I'm still preparing to travel, do some summer traveling.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
You're gonna be in the Great North Woods fishing. Is that right?
Yep, we leave tomorrow. Mm-hmm.
So I used to fish. So you're doing lakes? Are you in boats? Are you shore fishing? Or what kind of thing?
Yeah, so we do. I have a 17 and a half foot bass boat, deep V. I take that up with me, and we're on Charleston Lake in Ontario.
So are you like a bass master?
No, not at all. We do have, so we know a family up there we've known for, I think my son is coming up for the first year, will be the fifth generation to do this trip. So we have kind of our Canadian buddies up there who are our guides essentially.
And they're going to let you emigrate for a period of time?
Yeah, I have my 8-day pass, right?
Yeah. Do you have your Canadian flag?
It's stowed somewhere, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. That's very cool. I used to, when I was much younger, pre-kids, I think, I used to fish, with worms, shore fishing, and there was this one little protected lake that I couldn't take anything out of it, but it was just stocked with largemouth bass. And it was more entertaining than it was. And I wasn't really going to do the fillets and all that stuff, although I've done that with bluegill and things like that. But it was a time where I kind of enjoyed getting out, and it was just this weird connection with this little protected lake that I could go to and just pull these 14, 15 pound big mouth bass out. It was fun. That was fun. But I've kind of suppressed my savage tendencies at this point, and fishing seems like a lot of dirt and a lot of grime and a lot of worms. So anyways, we're going to talk about monitors today. And
I know it's the thing. It's the thing I miss the most when I travel, right? That's why I suggested it this week. It's probably the thing that I'm most excited to get home to in terms of my office setup. So I'm excited to talk about it.
So are you going to have internet up there?
Sort of. It's like cabin Wi-Fi is like 3G cell signal.
Oh, wow. So you can barely get your email.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It clunks along. Video's not working. Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, that's why people go out in the woods and, write treaties to the government and, hold themselves up because they've kind of lost their mind with it's the 3G that's doing it. It's not the 5G that's driving them crazy.
Right. Yeah. It's an important distinction.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about monitors. And you don't know what you've got until you've tried it. And do you know anybody that's still working single monitor in your academic life? So
our program assistant that we hired when she came on is very tech savvy, right? Really good with spreadsheets and, just navigating, very tech savvy, but has never had a dual screen setup. And I'm like, listen, you got to try, right? This is something you just have to see how it works for you. So she bought a second monitor and now doesn't understand how she worked prior. I think it's really one of those things that you don't realize how it impacts your productivity until you've really tried it out.
And for me, it's a lot. It's also just the sanity, You've got more places to put stuff instead of closing and opening windows and closing and opening windows or splitting it across the real estate that you have on one screen. Some evidence talks about how it creates cognitive relief, that the more
Mhm.
screen space kind of helps you with multitasking and reducing. Okay, now where's that window? I've got to switch that over to this window. Then I've got to get it out of the way so I can get to that window. And so there's a lot more relief that happens from it, but also 20 to 30% increase in productivity, which is seems sort of like big brotherish, that we're going to make our workers have 20 to 30% more productivity. But really, can you imagine working your job now, Eric, with just a single monitor?
No, no, and I think it changes your whole process and how you work, right? And I,
Yeah,
and I think in academia especially, we're not punching a time card. So
yeah,
if you're 20 or 30 more percent efficient in what you're doing, and the workload doesn't change so much as it gets more efficient. It takes you
hmm,
less time. And that switching between windows, although it's a second or two, your brain also has to readjust. You have to
right.
assimilate the information there, bring it to wherever it needs to be. I know a lot of the times I'm grading, I have reference materials up, I have the student submission up, I have my notes that I may be using to help me grade. So, being able to have those things kind of all in the same view is really helpful.
Yeah, and sometimes I need to have grading guides up for me on one screen while I've got the document that I'm grading on the other, while I have other information, or frankly sometimes it's a movie running on the third screen, just to kill my total boredom that grading brings upon me when I have to do it. But it's a necessary task that we do as academics. So um, I have a situation, and I don't know, you might not be familiar with this with Macs, and I'm not sure it applies to PCs, but I have my monitors all set at slightly different levels, which is supposed to be a no-no.
Mm.
Um, and I could elevate them all to the same level, but in Macs, when you have multiple displays, there is a page on the displays page that has your whatever displays you have connected. And what you can do is you can literally bring them up so the top line across all screens are the same.
Hmm.
So, although mine are at different levels and different resolutions, and we'll get to that when we talk about our setups, I can move something from across one screen to the other screen, and I know it's going to wind up at the top of whatever screen I'm moving it to.
Hmm.
So, having that kind of consistency for proper height and to avoid neck strain, and that's another aspect of it. I have two monitors that sit on the desk. One is elevated by about 3 to 4 inches. Another one sits directly on the desk and I don't have it elevated. And then another one is literally hanging onto the side of the desk because I have it mounted. And that
Hmm.
saves desk space because all it is taking up a 4 inch square space of my desk, and it's then floating on a mount above the rest of what I have going on with the desk. Okay. Other things that you want to mention here?
So I think a couple of things come to mind, right? Especially as we start to think about like resolution and those types of things. What you're using your monitor for matters. So if you're going to game, as an example, you're going to use it for gaming. Um, you want to check refresh rate and response times. We can talk a little bit about those numbers in a minute. You want to make sure that the hardware that you buy to hook it up meets the requirements for that. So if you're using kind of an HD, if you're using a display cable, you have the adapters that you need. Um, on the Windows side, it's pretty good at detecting what the resolution possibilities for that monitor are. But you want to make sure that your hardware you're using to hook it up actually matches that. Um, I've actually moved away from a multi-monitor setup and instead got a fairly large, a 47-inch curved ultra wide. It's the Samsung G9. Um, Same kind of landscape that I had before. I did have two 24-inch and then a document monitor, and I've replaced those three with this, um, which I really like. Right, and one of the
Hmm.
things I had to look at was, is my computer going to support the resolution the display offers, and then just making sure like I had the HDMI connections I needed to hook everything up. So that's something to look at when you're checking out monitors that you might want to buy. Something like the G9, can run you anywhere from, depending on the model that you choose and the size, about $1,000 to 16 or $1,800. I've seen them as high as $2,400 for the larger monitors. Um, Mine's about the mid tier. I think it's about $1,200 for this one. But honestly, changed everything for me. So much easier. There's no bevels, nothing to get in the way in between. You don't. You manage kind of your screens, um, your layout on the whole landscape.
So I've put up here the monitor. 49-inch is what you have.
Yeah, the 57 inch is for me was just way too much landscape. I mean, it's almost fully turning your head to see one side. I think the 47, with the distance I have it set, I can see pretty much the whole landscape within a little bit of my periphery. Um, 57 is neat, but it also has a much stronger curve. It kind of pulls in more. Um, and there's so much minutia to this that you could get into. The couple of things I would call out is the resolution. Um, so that's your 4K, 8K resolution, depending on what you're looking at. Um, this is an OLED monitor. Um, your refresh is 240 hertz. If you're doing anything that's not gaming, 120 is fine, even for
Mm.
video. Um, you'll see 144, 120. You'll see like those numbers are fine. Um, but if you get into gaming, the higher the number, the faster the refresh and response rate. That delay, the zero point 0.2 milliseconds, a lot of those, a 1 millisecond is fine, even for gaming. You're not going to notice that much lag or difference in it. And for video, but the zero point 0.2, you definitely notice the difference in response times compared side by side. So it really is about what you want to do with it. For productivity, you don't need to go this high end. There's definitely middle ground options for that.
So let me be the grumpy old father and say, why do you need a monitor that fast for gaming? Does it make you a faster gamer?
You don't need it necessarily, but you do notice the difference in lag. So if the responsiveness of the monitor to display that video, right, that you're playing, there's a definite difference in what you see. And if you're doing something with a lot of fast movement, things like racing games, first person games, you'll notice that world view and motion blur that you get, that's kind of built in to look more real and authentic,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of sticks around a little longer than it should, and it can delay your response to stimuli on the screen. So it does actually help you play better to have a more responsive screen and be able to react to the stimuli that's there.
Okay, so now I'm still responding like a dad. It's like, all right, I still don't buy it. I think you want to buy a $1,200 monitor just because it's cool. Um, and my
Oh,
son
that's
is
definitely part of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my son has told me, he wants to get a high refresh rate on a new monitor I think he just purchased a couple of monitors. I have to find out. what he got, because I think it was because that faster refresher. But if you're doing crossword puzzles on it, I guess you don't need a fast response rate, or
Hmm.
spreadsheets necessarily. And then I'm going to ask another tech geek question. Isn't that limited by what your um, game device puts out? So I mean, could
100%.
you potentially have a faster monitor but a slower game device? It's putting out 120, it's not putting out 240.
Yeah, it's only going to function at the rate at which the hardware can put out that resolution, right?
Yeah.
So even if you're playing an older game on a newer console, if it's not developed to be run in 120, it's not going to hit it. So the hardware and the software need to be able to put that out for the display to be able to display it.
Hmm.
So some of it you're just talking about capability, um, and some of these now are to the point where you're almost trying to get ahead of the game. You need to get more life out of the monitor in order for it to kind of catch up to the hardware.
Okay, I want to talk about portable monitors,
Mm-hmm.
because we both have had some experience with that. I will use them whenever I travel now. I have a second monitor that goes with me, and I'll show that in a minute since we're on the topic of it. Um, but you can also, and I've done this with my iPad. Uh, iPads and the iPad OS this last week got a new upgrade. Well, the developers got the upgrade. It's not for public beta yet, but everybody's loading the developer beta because it doesn't cost anything, and they're willing to take the risk of the any bugs that are in it and while it gets fixed. But the upgrade makes it run more like a computer than a tablet.
Mm-hmm.
There are menu items in there. There are ways that windows are managed that are a lot different than it used to be. And they're going, I could pretty much give up my laptop for an iPad when I travel now with this new operating system. I'm not sure I'm ready to do that. The thing is, there's this process with it called Sidecar. So you can use that as a second monitor. And I haven't figured out whether using it as a second monitor changes what it could do now with the new operating system that's out. Because when I used it as a second monitor, there were lots of limits to it. There was lag, moving things over. I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
perform functions on the iPad with something that was actually being moved over from the Mac that I wanted to perform functions with. But in short, if you are in the Mac ecosystem and you have an iPad and you have a MacBook or a portable Mac, even a stationary Mac, you could use the iPad as your second monitor if you wanted to. Um, I have not had success with HDMI hotel TVs. Have you done anything with TVs?
Yeah, from time to time, I've given it a shot. It really depends on what's in the room, and even then, it doesn't seem to work out quite so well. They're not really designed for that.
Yeah, and the thing, I mean, for gaming, that's fine. Probably, it probably has more meaning. And I purchased some devices to stick into the hotel television. The problem is getting access to the ports on them.
Mhm.
Often is they're glued to the wall, and you can stick your head against the wall, and you can see, oh, there's ports there, but I can't get my fat little fingers back there, and it's so dark back there, I can't tell where to plug what. I ran into this problem when I was in DC on a recent trip where I brought a portable device to be able to plug directly into the television. Just wanted to check it out and try it out. And it was fine, but the portable device also needed to be powered, and there was no power around the television. There were no way for me to conveniently plug it in, even to the television.
Hmm.
And so I was a little frustrated. And they made it available for you. There's like, here are the plugs you need to do it. But yeah, I need an extension cord to plug this device into the wall. I think the other problem too is televisions are meant for viewing when you're on the bed. They're not in front of you like at a desk where you're doing work. So
Hmm.
it's like I'm going to move everything over and then have to turn my head to the side to see it on a TV. So it's never worked out really well. Now, if I'm gaming and I'm lying on the bed, then with controllers, then that might work well. But for most workflows, it doesn't work very well.
I feel like Pavlov's dog. It's some, like I try to work from a bed, I'm falling asleep. Right, like
Yeah.
that's generally what's going to happen. Like I need to be sitting upright at a desk if I'm going to do something productive. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about portable monitors. I'm going to pull yours up first. And
Yeah, so I searched around a little bit. I actually had one before this, and this one is a dual screen monitor. Attaches by, and you can kind of see it there, but it stretches behind your screen, and your laptop screen is actually the main support for it. It'll have like a kickstand in the back that helps hold your monitor up, but it adds some weight. So the first one I got, I have a 17-inch screen, barely fit um, to fit across the monitor, and actually felt like it was pushing in on the laptop screen. So I sent that one back. I ordered this one, which is a little higher price than it recently was. Um, it was about $200 when I purchased it, and it does help. I mean, it's additional screens. It's two screens, one on either side. I think this one is the 15.6-inch version. I think they also have maybe a 14 or a 13-inch version, um, and it just adds that additional landscape that you need. Um, they are a little bulky to carry around. Like the carrying case is a little bulky. The whole setup is kind of bulky, but it does the job. And I think sort of tries to replicate having that additional landscape that you'd have at home. I find it to be helpful, but I also sometimes just revert to going to my one extra screen with the kickstand. I have
yeah.
another kind of 15-inch screen, and those ones you can find cheap. Sometimes you can find them for 75, $80. Work just fine for productivity.
Yeah, you convinced me to try the one that you got that you eventually returned, and I purchased it and didn't tell you I had purchased it because I was so dissatisfied with it that it was really quite weighty. And I thought, well, this, because I was using the display that I was using was just a separate flat
Mm-hmm.
screen display, and I'll go to mine in a minute. But I was so disappointed by the sheer weight of it, and then the thickness when it folded up, and that same sense that it felt like I was squeezing it onto my thin, very thin MacBook screen that I was going to do some damage to it. I did notice on this at the bottom they talked about frequently returned item.
Mm.
So, when you see that, you want to check out what people had to say about it. Sometimes, it could be that they found a cheaper item, so they return a cheaper thing that did their thing, did what they wanted to do, so they returned the item. It could be not necessarily a problem with the item. It could also be a problem with the seller or the buyer who thought this is supposed to do this and it doesn't do this,
Mm-hmm.
and returns because they don't know what they're buying. Not that there's anything wrong with what the seller is selling. So this is the monitor that you're using, the 49-inch Odyssey. You don't have dual monitors, and you do your work at home, correct? You don't
Mm-hmm.
have an office because you're doing online and all online kinds of meetings. This looks really sexy. I just not sure for me getting used to having it all on one screen instead of being able to kind of partition things across multiple screens works for me. So, have you worked with dual monitors before this?
I did, yeah. So this actually replaced my dual monitor and dock monitor setup. I actually had three. So I used the two ultra wides and then had a document monitor standing up on the side that I'd use for document review.
Yeah.
I actually like it. I partition it off into threes. So the software that comes with it allows you to kind of customize your desktop.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you can use up to 6 windows at a time and organize information that way. I generally use the three vertical split, but there have been times where I've used the dual or the entire screen depending on what I'm doing. So you can partition that off with the software instead of dragging it to another screen. Essentially, you're just kind of splitting it up into three sections. And there's a couple of different tools that you can download with that. Windows has kind of a native tool to let you do that, and then there's an add-on uh, Windows tool, and I'll have to look it up to figure out the name of it. But it allows you to create custom settings for what windows go where. So you can actually open a desktop workspace. Um, I have one preset that has my email, my grading, and my it will bring up another one of my tools that I use for note taking or whatever. So
Yeah.
like I can save those different workspaces as presets.
All right. I on my end, I have I can't seem to kill a monitor as much as I'd like to kill a monitor so I could get a new one or have an
Yeah.
excuse for getting a new one. In this home office, I have three monitors that I work off of. I will tell you those in a minute. I just realized I have another monitor that's on a Visa stand that is connected for if I wanted to do some gaming. It's an old Acer, so obviously
Mm.
refresh rate is not a thing for me. Um, and I can also connect it into a PC. I have one of those mini PCs that if I ever
Mhm.
have to go into the Windows environment, I can do that. I haven't had to in quite a while. So, and then I have just a monitor back here that I have no particular use for. I could do four monitors on my setup, but I do three. When I went from two, I thought, oh, this is heaven. And then I got a setup where I could do three. It's like, well, I'm going to put three monitors in it. And my wife says, what do you need a third monitor for? I don't know. I can do it. And
So I'm gonna do it.
yeah, well, sure enough, it's like, wow, this is really great. I now have three spaces, but mine are a collection of multi generations of monitors. So the first one, and it's funny because I went to search for these on Amazon, and it's like currently not available. That's because they're probably not producing it. But the first one is this Dell D series LED lit monitor. It's 31.5 inches, so it's a nice size monitor. And it sits to my left, and it not a 1920 by 1080, so it's not the highest resolution that you can get. But frankly, it's the best monitor for me to read documents off of because they come in nice and big. Um, the irony is, it has a VGA connector. It's been decades since we've had VGA as kind of the connector for things. And I think I'm actually using a VGA cable that I have to connect it. And then I have a VGA cable that patches it into the back of my device. But it is a workhorse. I don't have a lot of good things to say about Dell generally, but this monitor is a killer. And, they're telling me I can visit the Dell store if I want another one. But this is the one that sits elevated into my left.
Mhm.
In the middle, I kind of went high end. This is the Mac Studio display, 27 inch. So I've got 31 inches, 27 inches. God, this sounds like guy talk. Um, and it's 5K Retina display. This is the monitor that I'm looking at most of the time. That I'm looking at a camera that's mounted on that monitor. It has its own camera too, but it's where I'm doing most of my work is centered towards. So, the Dell monitor on the left sometimes really good for just watching YouTube videos or YouTube TV. The monitor in and of itself, this Apple monitor has a Thunderbolt and then three USB-C ports in it. You can buy various stands for it, but I'm just using the tilt adjustable stand. I'm not using a Visa stand or a mount that will allow me to make it smaller and bigger. So that's my middle, and that's $1,600 or $1,500, something like that. That's my middle, and that's my main monitor. And then on the left or on the right, I have another one that was purchased in 2020. Like I told you, I cannot kill monitors. And so I can't also get a price on them right now unless I go to another service to find it. This is a Samsung LU28, so it's a 28 inch monitor, UHD 4K gaming monitor. I don't know what the refresh is on it. Um, does it give a refresh on this?
I don't see it there.
I don't see it, but they advertised it as a gaming monitor. That's probably not why I purchased it. It was probably purchased because I had, was on sale and I needed another monitor. This is the one that's hanging on the Visa mount. So this is the one that's kind of hanging on the mount that's hanging off the side of my desk, and that's to my right. And I often sometimes forget it's there, that I can use it for screen space. I don't watch anything on it like videos because I just have a tendency to turn to my left to do that on the large Dell. But it comes in right now. There's some document that I'm working on and that I have pulled over to the side. If I'm doing eCam videos, I have materials. I'll have my camera setup screen on the right, and then I'll have what we're doing face forward, and then I'll have the what you're seeing when you see me switch to websites is on the Dell, and it's set up on that monitor. So that's the arrangement I use for production of something like this. So that's my home arrangement. At work, I don't like to work at work because I have one of the ones that didn't even make this list of displays I have here is at the office, and that's my second display. They've given me a Dell computer to work with, and if I need something Windows wise, I can always use it, but I barely turn it on. I'll take my laptop with me when I have to go to the office and do it there. So that's my setup.
Yeah, I love that the Apple monitor is up to 12 billion colors. I was thinking as you showed that, I think I only know the 24 that are in the Crayola box.
Yeah, and I'm
That's a
colorblind,
lot
so
of
I could
colors.
really give a damn how many colors I can't see. Um,
Yes. We're definitely not using the full spectrum of capability. Yeah.
all right, any more comments, or we should wrap this up?
We can wrap it up. I think just one more thing. When you're looking at Chromebooks in particular, many of them don't have a graphics card. So if you're using a Chromebook, it can be difficult to add a second monitor. Check your
Hmm,
specs before you do it.
good point.
I tried that with one of mine and just didn't have the capability to add one. Um, so something to check into if you're traveling with a Chromebook.
Yeah, I have three Chromebooks in my closet. I got them when we were using them with teachers that were here on a grant and figured I needed to know it. And every time I'm going, well, I maybe need to look back in and see if I should upgrade my Chromebook. And it's like, upgrade to what? The
It's not.
platform really hasn't changed, and there's a better computer doesn't necessarily help unless it's got something like a graphics card, which is what you suggest to look for in the specs. So let's talk a little bit about MacStock. I'll be brief with this because I know we're coming to the top of the hour. MacStock Conference and Expo, it occurs July 11th, 12th, and 13th. I will be presenting there on Apple AI and also with my son on a podcast that we do called Gear Up and Go. There are a bunch of great presenters and a bunch of great topics. If you want to be there, they have a full weekend pass. If you can't be there the full weekend, there are a couple of day passes that you can set up with Mike Potter, who runs the conference. MacStockConferenceandExpo.com is the link to it. If you want a $50 discount for coming to the conference, you can use PodTalk50 as the code when you check out. And we'll have the link in the show. Go to look at the website, if for anything, just to see who the presenters are, what the topics are. It's very Mac-centric. So, but somebody like you, Eric, I think would be fascinated by it if we could get you there, just because it is a great kind of social experience too, and not super big. If you want to contact us or you have some ideas for shows or things you'd like to share, you can email us at thepotalknetwork@gmail.com. That's the address that we use for all of our shows. You can find out the rest of our shows on thepodtalk.net, including Circular Firing Squad that Eric's on, and other shows that I do, like I said, the one with my son, Gear Up and Go, Old Mac Show, Old Mac Gang, and then the one that I do on Monday nights with another Eric Bolden, on called Vision Profiles, about the Apple Vision Pro. Look for us on Spotify, TuneIn, Apple Podcasts, and all podcast servers. Our bumper music is from Philip Gross, Rast, from the Free Music Archive. Everything you need to know and every connection you need to get, you can find at thepodtalk.net. And we're glad that you joined us. And that's it for this episode. Thanks for subscribing to the Tech Savvy Professor.